This is a patch video that I decided to make just because I wanted to, because I'd like to tell you my thoughts about the new patch changes, and as well as update people who don't really read into them. And there's a lot of important stuff. And this week's patch was pretty huge. So one thing that was not in the patch notes is that now you can't spawn alternate avatars in practice mode. Right now I'm in practice mode. You can see if I try to look on the hero list, there's no alt strings. I guess that's what you call. There are no alt avatars, okay? Now you can't spawn them and you can't really see how they look before you actually buy them. That's a pretty bad thing. You can still technically do it if you go into the game folder and extract the model and replace some models. Basically, it requires you to do some unnecessary stuff, but it is possible. I'm not going to show how to do it, and I'm not sure I'm going to be doing it myself too, but it's a really crappy move of S2. It's turning more and more into a money-hungry company, which is bad, but there's nothing I or anyone else can do about it, I guess. It's their game, they can do whatever they want with it, unless they make something really bad, some really bad change. I'm gonna stay and play Han. I just hope to God they don't make this game free to play. This is gonna ruin matchmaking so bad. But onto the actual patch changes. So fixes, new icons. Yeah, that's all cool. Something I want. Oh yeah, first change Vulture Lord's tornado goes through trees and cliffs. That's a creep, and if some of you didn't know, yes, he does have a skill tornado, which slows a bit. I think it slows a bit nearby heroes and deals AoE damage. Small damage in a large AoE, like I'm not sure how large. I think it's 600, and much more like triple the damage in a small AoE for those who are inside the tornado. Making it move through trees, I'm not sure what's the reason behind that. I mean, if you want to hide your vulture like behind the trees, and then you want to cast a tornado and make it go all around, like into the lane or something, going through trees will save you like 1 second at most. And what's the point? You can just hide inside and cast it outside right here. There's no real difference. I'm not really seeing how much will this change the game, but tornadoes were a bit underpowered, I think. Perhaps it will allow people to farm a bit better with Vulture, like when you dominate him and cast your tornado, instead of going all around, like here for example, you can just go through to the next camp. So it will help a bit farming with the Vulture, but it's not a huge change. Definitely not huge. So other stuff is just fixes. Astrolabe outer radius, I have no idea what it was before, not a big change, a bit increased the AoE of the heal, also not too big of a change. Barrier idle increased the range. I'm not sure this was needed, but it's not a big change anyway. Elder Parasite damage taken reduced. Like you get 20% bonus damage taken when you activate it, now it's 15%. A balance change, obviously. Did we really need it? Perhaps people were flaming Elder Parasite that it's a noob item and bad stuff like that, but I think people just don't get the item and all that it offers. Like, I think they're thinking of using it in the wrong way. It's definitely not a bad item. It's a really good item. I mean, it's 100 attack speed for 1000 gold, plus lifesteal, plus movement speed. You can use it to farm. It's not just to kill heroes. But anyway, questionable change, but whatever works, I guess. Frostfield Plate. Just to make it clear, 900 is the default radius for AoE for any aura. So they're basically resetting all auras to default range. Now, a big change, Lagger's Hatchet was reworked. I wonder if I can spawn it here. I should have probably stayed at base, shouldn't I? So it's item. Okay, I'm trying to spawn a unit. That's a big mistake. Not here. Oh, I hate this. Okay, here we go. So now you can use it to throw it into an enemy creep. It only works on creeps. You can't throw it at enemies, like enemy heroes. So, and it deals just your attack damage. I think the damage, like from the item itself, like plus 32% damage to creeps, I think it works. So, I'm not sure how pebbles appeared. Whatever. Okay, pebbles, just screw off. It throws a hatchet that deals attack damage. Now, of course, this is a huge buff. The item can still be used to cut down trees from a distance, which is pretty awesome for juking purposes. Like you're running here, you cut down this tree from a distance, and then you run through it. Okay, that was a bad example, but you get the idea. You can do it from a distance. And if you cut down a tree, the cooldown is still 15 seconds. Now, one consequence of this is that it becomes infinitely better against Keeper of the Forest. And if anything, Keeper of the Forest did not need a nerf. So say before, you'd see, like, for example, this tree right here would have a Keeper's Eye on it. What would you use? You would go around and cut down first this tree to get to that one, and then cut down that tree. Now we can just cut down that tree. What's the range in this thing? 600. Keeper of the Forest will have a lot of trouble with this item now, much more than before. And of course, I'm not even talking about last hitting creeps. This will help so much to melee heroes that are being harassed too much. You can just do it from a normal range, like 600 is pretty normal range for a ranged hero. Like, it's even pretty far away. So it's a huge buff to the item, and cost stayed the same, 225 gold. So I'm not sure if the cost is now justified. This item now becomes just too good on melee heroes. All melee heroes should now have this item. Just no doubt. Like, not endangering myself by going close. I just do it from a distance. Why was this change made? Well, there was an item called Trophy Belt that was promised in patch 2.0, but they didn't add it because it was not balanced or something like that. It was basically a concept then. So what it did was pretty much the same thing, except it guaranteed the creep kill. It killed the creep, one creep, every 30 seconds for some mana, I think. Now, Logger's Hatchet will do the same thing, but you actually have to have skill to do it, and it doesn't cost mana. So I guess this is a sign that Trophy Belt isn't going to be added, or at least in the form that we'll expect it to be. And this will change also, maybe, just maybe now, this item could be potentially good on ranged heroes. Because when using an item, you have to remember you have no attack animation. The hatchet will fly out immediately, like instantly. No attack animation or anything. So in a sense, it's definitely better than your own projectile. Like in 99% of the cases, unless you have a really good animation and a really fast projectile speed, but that's rare. So questionably, this item could be picked up on some heroes. And also it will allow you to hit 2 creeps at the same time. And you know, every one of us had those situations where there's 2 creeps really low on health, and you could have killed them both and got the gold for it, but you just can't because you're not fast enough. So say I attack this creep and this one at the same time. So it makes last hitting much easier even for ranged heroes, but primarily will be used for melee heroes. And also a reason for this change is probably tri-lanes, since S2 hates tri-lanes, and one hero against 2 maybe more powerful heroes or 3 will have an easier time landing last hits from a distance. That's one of the reasons. Or also to buff melee heroes against ranged heroes, because it's pretty annoying to play when you're being harassed by a good player. So that's about it with this change, and let's go on to the next one. If you're a melee hero, I want you to buy Logger's Hatchet. That's what I want you to do, because this item is now pretty fucking awesome for its cost, which is the same. Incendiarius now has a really small cooldown just when you activate it. It's a buff. It's basically so that you don't accidentally turn it on and off instantly by mistake. So it stays on if you press it a couple of times really fast. Knows wisdoms, blah blah. Nullfire Blade now has infinite charges and cooldown increased. I think this is a nerf. Yeah, actually I think this is a nerf to Nullfire Blade. Before, it was really hard to use up all the 16 charges during the game, and the nerf comes from the increased cooldown. So I'm not sure how that will work out. Did Nullfire Blade need a nerf? I'm not sure. It wasn't really picked up in many heroes anyway, so a weird change, honestly. I would have preferred the old Nullfire Blade. They're trying to remove infinite charges from many items, but I don't think it was such a good idea in this case. Plated Greaves radius increased. Plated Greaves aren't really used by many heroes anyway. Radius increase doesn't really do much anyway, so useless change is useless. They need to do something else to the item to make it more useful. Homecoming Stone fixed the bug. Yep. A lot of bugs now. A lot of summoned stuff like minions and wards even have a timer above them, or I guess in the skill itself that will show you how much time is left. That's all cool. Runed Axe can now cut down trees. You can think of it as, Runed Cleaver, which is this item. You can now cut down trees like the old Logger's Hatchet with a 15-second cooldown from melee range. It doesn't work from a distance like the new Logger's Hatchet. You have to come in melee, and it shares the cooldown with Logger's Hatchet. So you can't cut down 2 trees in a row, unfortunately. So then we have pretty much nothing else left. That's for the item changes. I like a lot of item changes mentioned. Well, actually, to be honest, I only like this one change with Logger's Hatchet. This is such a cool item now. It will make so much easier to play for melee heroes, which was pretty annoying before. Oh, thank you, S2, for this change. I'm not sure the cost of Logger's Hatchet is now justified, but perhaps it stayed the same not to change the builds too much, like the builds in the guides and the starting items that you can get. This is my own guide, which is basically a test guide. Don't think that I play like this. Yeah, start with dust and don't get anything all game. Yeah, and don't get your ultimate until level 13. Yeah, that's how I play Fayde. But what was I talking about? Yeah, Logger's Hatchet. If the starting cost would be raised, then there could be some items that you would not be able to buy the same as before. So changing the cost on starting items is a sensitive subject, so to speak. Heroes. New intelligence hero Martyr. I guess that's what you call him. Or I could call him Martyr. Yeah, Martyr sounds pretty fun. It's like it works in the video. The way it's pronounced. Martyr or something like that. Sounds cool. I could call him Martyr. But after this video, expect a Martyr game from me. I won't be explaining his skills or who he is in this game or in this video. This is not a game really. But you can expect a video of Martyr upload soon. And I will also think of a good build on him before playing him, of course, and maybe create my own guide fast. Accursed Seer is no longer an attack modifier. This is a huge change. By the way, the Gold Pebbles alternate avatar, I actually got it. This is my first alternate avatar that I got ever. Yeah, because I have a Pebbles request soon. So not an attack modifier. What does this mean? This means it's a buff to carry potential. Accursed can perhaps carry now, or at least carry better, because he can get items with lifesteal, except for the usual Abyssal Skull that allows you to have lifesteal without an attack modifier, but you can basically now get lifesteal or any of these items. And Frostburn would stack the slow and give Accursed some movement speed, which would be pretty awesome for a carry. Or you could just go for Whispering Helm for the damage and extra armor and stuff, or even Shield Breaker, anything. Just I will experiment a lot with the builds. Now Accursed can somewhat carry. Then Andromeda mana cost and Comet was increased for early game. Aura duration reduced. Basically, it's a nerf. Her cooldowns have been reduced on ultimate, increased reduced duration on her second skill. Comet mana cost increased for early game. All around nerf. I guess it was because she was picked up a lot competitively. Did she really need that nerf? I don't think so. She's a really good support hero, but was it worth the nerf? Not sure it's a good idea, but now we have to stick with it. That's how Andromeda will be now. Less of her armor, I guess it's now important to get those levels. Arachna mana cost and hardened carapace reduced, and magic armor a bit rescaled to be more early game and less late game. A buff, definitely a buff to Arachna. Did she need one? I don't think so. But hardened carapace was kind of a useless skill. I think it will still be useless. People will still only pick up one level of it. Snutstorm armor reduction increased by 0.5. Wow. On level 4. Yeah, that's gonna help a little bit. Then we have Behemoth. His heavyweight stun duration on level 1 and level 2 has been increased. What does that mean? It means that when you jump on levels 8 or 7 with a portal key on enemies, you will actually stun for longer after using your ultimate. But it doesn't make much change because you just use your normal stun afterwards, which is much longer, so kinda cancels out, but maybe in case you don't have enough mana, that's a buff. And now his ultimate doesn't jump from corpses. And the damage is a bit decreased on the 3rd level. Not a big change, to be honest. Corpses weren't used that often, really. And it makes up for the little buff that he received from heavyweight. Oh yeah, and also increased damage, but that's not that important. Then we have a nerf on take cover bubbles. I think this was needed. Bubbles take cover was pretty ridiculous. How you can hide and teleport away and basically ignore damage for long periods of time. Bubbles is a strong hero, needed a little nerf, and I think this is good. Chipper focus buffer decreased. This is for late game, I guess, since it's mostly picked up late game anyway. Or at least it has most of its effect late game. Okay, I don't know what I'm talking about. This is a nerf, and it's not really a big deal, since its purpose is to basically block a couple of skills, and the purpose will remain. Chipper did need a nerf though. Chronos time lead movement speed slow a bit, increased on early levels. That's definitely a buff because you always want to take only one level of time lead early game. And on that first level it will now slow for more. So that's definitely a buff to Chronos. Did he need one? No, I don't think so. Maybe this was a mistake, but what do I know about balance, right? So then Dark Lady Taint mana cost was decreased to a static 35. It doesn't scale up anymore, and I did level up Taint Soul quite a bit, not just left it for the last level. So this is a buff to Dark Lady, a really good buff, I think. She needed this. Empath, a buff to her Illusionary Veil. Is it enough of a buff for her? We'll just see how it works out, but Empath was definitely a bit underpowered. Then Fayde was reworked, that's how I say it. Okay, here's how it goes. Her stance is gone. She doesn't switch between stance, which removes a whole bunch of confusion. Okay, Pebbles, go back. Are you actually going to attack me? Oh, Pebbles, you're an idiot. So there is already a hero that switches between modes, Flux, so we have our mode switching needs satisfied, I guess. And Fayde didn't really need that anymore. So what does it do now? It now removes a percent of maximum mana, just like before, but it also steals half of that mana. So, for example, let's spawn some hero here, just to show. Why do I spawn items now? Oh, so bad. Stand still. Okay. So it will burn on level 4 28% of his maximum mana, and half of that amount will be restored for my mana. So basically it's a mana stealing skill now, which is, I guess, 14% of his maximum mana is transferred to me. It's not too much, as you can see. To fully restore the mana that the skill actually costs, you will need a hero with either a lot of mana or to hit many heroes at once, but it's definitely a big buff to the skill. Second skill is now the stun, and I think either the first or the second skill damage was buffed. Let's see which one. Yeah, the first skill was buffed a bit in damage. Second skill stayed the same, that's cool. Now third skill received a massive change, and a really interesting one, to be honest. So now it's an AoE slow with a 5-second duration and a 10-second cooldown. So basically half of the time you can slow an area, half of the time you could be slowing, and it also increases your own movement speed. It doesn't only slow enemies. It doesn't work on your allies, I think. Yeah, it doesn't work on your allies, only works on enemies and yourself. So why is this huge? Why do I consider this huge? It is because, as you can see from all the guides, wait, this is not a guide, this is a guide. Ignore my stupid guide. In all of the guides, Ghost Marchers was the core, were the core boots on Fades. Were the core boots. Oh my god, my English sucks. Were the core boots. Okay. You can see the top 3 guys have it as core, except for this one, which has Striders for some reason. So this one doesn't have any boots. This guide is bad. Yeah, this one has anyway, it's Marchers, you get it. Marchers, Ghost Marchers was the must-have item for Fayde, which is located here. Ghost Marchers. The reason for this is after your combo, you would get 1 or maybe 2 hits, and then your enemy would try and run away, or maybe use its own Ghost Marchers to run away. And you would use your own Ghost Marchers to land 1 extra hit, maybe. 1 extra hit if you're lucky. So getting more attack speed was a bit pointless because you needed more damage for that 1 extra hit. And Ghost Marchers was pretty much a must. What will change now? Well, actually, I think Fayde can now carry better and can become a proper semi-carry because she can get Steam Boots. While in the area of effect with the slow, you with Steam Boots as Fayde are actually faster than an enemy with activated Ghost Marchers. So instead of getting those 3 hits, probably, if you're lucky with Ghost Marchers, you will now potentially get 5 hits. Getting attack speed on Fayde is now actually making sense, and she will deal, of course, more damage than before. Her ultimate was changed to pretty much the same thing. Damage is magic. Before you could switch between magic and physical with the third skill, but now it's just magic. Everything is magic damage. Same skill, but now you can go through 3s and you get clear vision around yourself, meaning you can watch over trees and up cliffs, which is pretty cool. This is definitely a buff and will make the hero interesting. Just running out of the woods all of a sudden, bam, and killed. So yeah, this is a cool change. Now, the change that you steal mana is not shown in the first tooltip. The new tooltips are actually not showing a lot of info and often forget important stuff, unfortunately. But you'll have to deal with it. Let's just see, 300 mana, 260 mana. As you can see, I only lost about 40 mana, while the skill costs 130. So only 40 mana lost. That proves that it steals mana. The skill is really good, seriously. And now I think, overall about this rework, I guess that's what you call it, I think Fayde really needed it, and Fayde is now really much better. She was basically, from my point of view, the worst hero in the game, the most underpowered one. Now she's good, much better. I'm very satisfied with this change. Flux pretty much just fixes, no need to look over them. Forsaken Archer change. Now instead of her split fire was changed. Now instead of dealing a % of your damage to all targets hit, like you turn on split fire and you deal like, let's say 80% of damage. It wasn't 80, I'm just saying 80 to all 5 targets you hit. now you deal your full normal damage to the primary target, like the one you focus, just like with your normal attack. But in addition, you hit the other targets for a lower percent, like 35 or something. Actually, let's see it. How much is it? Yeah, 35% of damage. So it has been changed so that your primary target always takes the full damage. So with the old one, you would actually want to look at the situation and turn your split fire on only when you need it. Only when you see that you can potentially deal more damage than if you left it off. But late game, you would usually have it off all the time. New split fire should always be on. Should always be on. However, I still think that getting skeletons early game over split fire is better. It's just better for farming and better for everything. But you will want to leave it on all the time now. That's a buff, definitely a buff for Fayde. What Fayde? Forsaken Archer. Did she need it? I think yes, she needed a small buff. Gauntlet now has constantly 40 movement speed instead of 10, 20, 30, 40 when he activates his first skill and his hand is burning or whatever it's doing. Grapple is now a bit easier to land, and a good, really huge change to Gauntlet is that his third passive skill, Enfeeble, which slows, is not an attack modifier. Again, this means he can become a carry. Yes, I know it sounds weird, but indeed, Gauntlet can become a semi-carry, because now he can get items that give him attack modifiers, like Lifesteal or Frostburn, which will stack with his slow, which will slow even more and will just be pretty annoying to deal with. So that's a buff to Gauntlet, and I think he really needed it. I'm really happy with this change. And then life away damage on Hellbringer, that was his third AoE skill that you cast. I think it decreases magic armor by a bit and heals you for the percent of damage that the target takes. Did he need this nerf? I'm not sure, but the skill was definitely very strong. One of the best skills in the game. You basically cast it on a bunch of enemies, like 3 enemy heroes, and if you're in a team fight, you can guarantee yourself to be healed and pretty much stay alive no matter what happens. Jeruzai Inner Light radius was increased by 50, which is good because it was pretty hard to land, but the damage is no longer true damage but magic damage. So before you dealt about 360 damage, 360, now you will deal about 270, 280, somewhere along those lines. So overall, I think it's a nerf, but it's a bit easier to land. Did Jeruzai need a nerf? I think yes, because after the slow aura change, after it was added, he became a pretty strong hero. He's a really good hero, Jeruzai. So then Legionnaire blah blah. A small buff that you can now actually tower dive a bit better with Legionnaire. That's cool. Meraxes, stun duration increased on early levels, early game. Did he need it? Perhaps. Whatever. It doesn't really change much for Meraxes. Maybe we'll get you one extra kill really early game if you're really aggressive. So it's a buff, definitely a buff. Did he need it? Perhaps. And Pandemonium Cannonball again. All these changes increase durations of stuns early game, except for the Andromeda one, which was nerfed early game. So an increased stun duration on Cannonball. Did Pandemonium need this? Again, perhaps. Perhaps not. It doesn't really make much sense, but it's a buff to Pandemonium. Let's see how it works out in game. Yeah, I say that, but you'll have to do that on your own. Now, Pharaoh Torment soul mana cost increased. A good change, I think. Pharaoh was really annoying with his souls that cost almost no mana. That's the third skill, the rocket that fires shits all over the map. It was so annoying, and now it will be a little bit less annoying. So, less. That's not even a word. So it will be less annoying, but I think this was needed. But perhaps Pharaoh needed a buff in some other area because he's not really that strong late game. Or maybe he didn't, and I'm just talking nonsense, but this was a needed change, definitely. Then Puppet Master, Puppet Show, his ultimate, or I mean Voodoo Puppet, his ultimate now will basically deal a little bit less damage than before. But it hasn't changed much. It hasn't changed much. All I can say is that it may be a little nerf to Puppet Master. You could say it's a little nerf. Yeah. But it didn't change too much. A big change to Scout. Now when you turn off Vanish manually or when you run out of mana, it will... I can actually demonstrate it. Hero Scout, please, Hero Scout. There we go. Don't level up Vanish on level 1, that's a bad idea, but when you turn off Vanish, he will actually retain his attack speed bonus for the few attacks that he does, and on level... okay, let it be 25. On level 4 of the first skill, you can actually turn it off, wait, and then land your 4 attacks. This is definitely a big buff to Scout, and often you find yourself in situations where you think, oh my god, if I don't attack him now, I'm gonna run out of mana and then basically lose my attack buff from Vanish. But now it will remain, it helps Scout. Did he need the buff? Perhaps. He needs a lot of farm to be scary late game, but he's a really good carry and has good farming capabilities. Then we have Slither buff. Yes, this is actually a buff. From the third skill Toxicity, your movement speed slow has been removed, the 10%, and the regen disable also lowered by 20%. Why is this a buff? Because this is no longer an attack modifier. Yeah, you can actually build Slither like a carry now. At least more like a carry, unless as a support. So I think it's a buff to his carry capabilities. Yeah, third skill is now a little bit worse. Maybe a little bit worse for Harass, but not too bad by any means. And gives him a lot of late game potential. Soul Stealer Demon Hand mana cost increased by 5. Oh my god. What's that all about? A nerf to Soul Stealer? A lot of people are on the forums are actually unsatisfied by this change. A lot of people are saying it's not important, but if you think about it, early game when you cast 3 hands, it will now cost 15 extra mana. What does this mean for Soul Stealer? Well, he's an agility hero and he doesn't have much mana and he has low mana regeneration. And regenerating those 15 mana will take you about 20 to 25 seconds early game. So that's like 20 or 25 seconds where you could potentially not use a hand, where you could have used a hand as in first skill before. So it's definitely a nerf to his farming, but I think it was needed. Succubus Mesmerite mana cost reduced, that's fine. I guess Succubus actually needed a buff. Now Thunderbringer, his third skill passive was nerfed. He needed this change, definitely. No comments there. Torture was nerfed overall. Now his first skill cost a little bit more mana. Same for the second skill in early game. And his third skill now deals a little bit less damage by 5 less damage. Was it really that required, this change? And hits less targets and pulls for a less amount. The pull radius change, I'm not sure why it was made, because it was already pretty useless before. Like, you could very rarely actually take use of it. It was really hard to land, it was very skill based and didn't pull too much. So a nerf to that, I'm not sure what they were thinking. I'm not sure. Well, Torture needed a slight nerf, but maybe not to this thing. Tundra, a little buff, I think, to Cold Shoulder on early game. That's an overall buff to Tundra, since he takes usually 1 level of Cold Shoulder early game. And that's a good thing, Tundra needed it. And the last change is Witch Slayer Power Drain. now drains a little bit more early game. I usually take 2 levels of power drain, and then, or even 1 level, and then go straight for miniaturization. It's a really good skill, or get 1-1-1-1. In any case, this is a buff. This is definitely a buff, and it will help Witch Slayer a lot, make him much more annoying. Did he need this? I'm not sure. Witch Slayer is already a pretty stable support hero. He can stun, he can disable, he has a nuke, and he can steal mana. He's a pretty solid hero. I'm not sure he needed this buff. It's not too big, but it will be more annoying to play against him early game. So that's it. That covers all the changes that I wanted to talk about. Biologger's Hatchet, and soon I'll upload my game of playing with Martyr, or Martyr. No, I'll call him just Martyr. Yeah, Martyr, like the cannon thing, you know? And I'm not sure, tell me what do you think about the new changes. Maybe you hated some changes, maybe you liked them. But most of them were needed, and this was a really good patch. Except for the practice, no more alt avatars thing. That was a bad one. And please enjoy my next video, and yeah, I'm back. I'm uploading videos much more frequently now. Have fun and hunt, and just call me up when you want to play, and if I'm playing, I'll play with you. See you.